Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Tactical Games Podcast. I'm here with James Gill, and we're here today to talk about after action from Utah, to talk about South Carolina, our upcoming event, talk a little bit about nationals, and I don't know, we'll just see where it goes. What do you think? So, what did you think of our Utah event? We talked with Nick specifically about performance of the athletes. Let's just talk in large about the event itself.
Well, I saw the new format worked really well for us. I'm huge fan of it. I like the way it rolled out. I think everybody that was there was pretty happy with it. Knowing that we're going to continue that going forward, it's going to simplify things so now we can kind of step up and, no one will have an excuse going day one to day two that they didn't see something or they're the first heat or something of that nature. We've had a rocking staff for Utah, which is really nice. Got a lot of those repeat staff members coming to South Carolina, so it should be a good one. I was really happy with the structure of the event, and then had some time to go around and look at some competitors, watch what they were doing, kind of pick apart what they were complaining about real time. So that was pretty enjoyable.
One of my favorite things to do is when I hear somebody bitching, because I'll hear it. Like, we walk around, and it's a lot of times it's anger that they don't know where to place because they're mad about the way that they performed, and they immediately blame something that's out in front of them instead of taking onus and thinking like, oh shit, I did something wrong.
Yep.
It becomes, well, this was messed up. It's like, well, in this case, 200 and however many, 200 and I don't think the number was 90, but 290 other people went through and didn't have that issue. It was you that had the issue. So I do like to address those things with them right away and talk through what's going on, what they're feeling, really about what's going on. And I think that when you have those conversations, people start to think like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that was me that messed up.
Yeah, several times this year we've had direct conversation with competitors about what happened real time on the stage.
Yep.
And then seen similar sentiment on the after action questionnaire. So a lot of times we hear target labeling, numbering targets for you guys downrange. And in certain cases nationals last year we did, I think, a better job on most stages of labeling. I'm pretty particular about, did we spray paint it or did we stencil it?
Yeah.
Like I'm OCD. But in that case, we still had competitors that shot the wrong target.
Yeah, yeah.
So Utah specifically had several people ask why we don't number targets. Well, there's a 50-50 mix there. Sometimes we don't necessarily label a target because that's part of the challenge.
Yep.
If the work that you're performing seems like it's really simple, you look at the stage brief and you walk away and you say, 30 seconds, I know what I'm doing, and then you come off the stage and you shot the wrong target, like, were you so confused at what you were doing with the workload, or you were just on autopilot and you just got in and didn't positively ID your target?
Do you remember when people used to shoot out a sequence when we would have switching of ports through different, like a shooting sequence, a round of 12, you might shoot 3 shots through one port, 3 shots through another port, and 3 shots through another port. People understood that it was a challenge then.
Even then, you'd have some really intelligent minds
that
you would watch, like counting on their fingers in the middle of the sequence, and then, oh, dang it, and then they go to the next port. Or guys collectively as a squad knew that they were looking for that stuff, so they'd be calling it out to each other.
Right.
And now that we've gotten away from doing those really advanced firing sequences, some of our newer athletes look at stages and they're like, I think you should have 17 red arrows pointing exactly in
with
a
my
wing
name.
banner. Yeah. Dave Smith, shoot here,
I did see one of the survey feedback items said that we should give everybody name tags for the back of their plate carriers.
I've been saying that for tune-up. Everybody introduces themselves, and I say, I'm going to forget your name.
Every single
immediately. But I do like that. Obviously, we've talked about bibs for runs and different things. So, yeah, it'd be nice to be able to see who you're judging. But as an athlete judge, you have one athlete to track all weekend.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know his name or his blood type or any of that stuff. Just what lane were you judging?
Call him up by number.
Yeah. This guy, I was judging the guy in the center lane. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So some of those things, like, I'd like to give you guys all jumpsuits and, uniforms. Okay, the guys wear pink and the ladies wear blue.
Yep.
And,
We'll do it the other way around. So it's not sexist.
Yeah, we're a modern company.
Well, yeah, we're not going to talk about female cops. I'll tell you that. That was we respect every one of the competitors in our sport, regardless of sex. There's definitely that was absolutely crazy. I saw that feedback from one of the other podcasts out there that a guy was talking shit about all the female female law enforcement officers that he's interacted with. I would say probably half of our competitor base that's female is in law enforcement or in the military, wears a uniform or works behind a gun every day. And I can't say loudly enough that I disagree with that statement. So I think that's company wide. We might joke with our competitors about things like that, and hopefully we can keep that. I never want that to run away. We respect the hell out of everybody that comes out and competes. So regardless of who you are, what your sex is, know that you're welcome here for sure.
And I've been telling people for the last couple of years, men's intermediate and women's elite on a lot of the stages are 1-for-1 rep count, weights, and so you can, unenthusiastically match my performance and say, hey, you did pretty good on that one, Gill. And I'm like, yeah, but I got my time cut in half by 9 of the 10 ladies in the match. And they're like, oh, well, that's pretty tough. And I'm like, no, these are like tough athletes.
Yeah.
Don't take away from what they're doing. Like, oh, it's just the women competing against other women. I've lost to a bunch of them.
Yeah. And I don't think it's men's intermediate and women's elite anymore. I think it's like the men's, I'm pretty sure it's the men's tactical that they're matching up with there just to bust you down another peg.
Yeah. So when you learn how to read practice score and start matching out your shooting percentages and, your overall time, and you start measuring some of those things up, you'll start putting things in a little better perspective of how you actually performed.
Yeah.
We see that a lot, and this is kind of something that's starting to bleed over to our events, is when you go to an action stage at a local club, it's not a standardized event. Whoever does well on that is king for a day.
Yep.
And everybody says, well, I did really well at this event, and we always say, well, let's put this on a national scale. How did you do? So if you notice, we're starting to establish some kind of our standardized stages.
There's definitely been some some things that we've repeated, movement patterns that we've repeated, things that we know that work well. We bring them back and utilize them again for sure.
Yeah, and so a lot of these workouts you could call our benchmark workouts. And a skirmish program is highlighting, hey, we're gonna have multiple clubs across the country running similar stages all weekend. So now you can stack up. Hey, I might be, this weekend I go compete and I sign up in elite.
Yep.
Well, I won elite. Well, there was nobody there.
Right.
Like, how does my score in elite stack up to last year's defending champion?
Yep.
So if you see some of these stages and you hear us critiquing you on how you did, maybe don't take it so offensively. Like, you shot well, but this is where you should have been, or why you shot well enough, but you were too slow at the firing line.
Yep.
So we're starting to break some of that down and put people at a realistic understanding of, hey, this performance was acceptable for this event, but I still have more waypoints to hit along the way.
Yeah. So going back to the Utah event, what's one of the critiques that you think that we're going to take into action for our next event?
The biggest one was scoring on the marathon targets.
Yeah.
That one, was one that I don't think either of us were happy with as far as.
Yep.
It was a really fun stage. It was good for a lot of people. It was a blind stage.
Yep.
I think we're getting good feedback on people liking the blind stages. Not all of them, obviously. But that one was one where someone comes off the stage and they're a phenomenal shooter, but the scoring doesn't match what they're doing. And I'm like, well, were you shooting for extreme accuracy on this, or were you shooting rapidly and sacrificing your hits?
Yeah.
When you shoot on a paper stage, you can see the effects of all of your rounds immediately.
Right.
When you shoot an action stage, for example, if you're shooting at steel targets, there's 10 targets. Okay, this guy shot them real fast, but he shot 4 shots at each target.
Yeah.
Versus somebody that went through very slowly and shot 1 for 1 and had a similar
hit
time.
A vital every single time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that. So in shooting it, slowing down, taking more controlled, accurate shots was better for me. I didn't need to spend the time reloading. I like that stage a lot because of what it required to be able to be effective at it. You could rapid fire it, or you could slow down and take your time and get your hits on it. And I don't know. I thought it was a good stage, but again, yeah, you're right. The scoring would definitely adjust that next time.
And not even the issue with scoring, but expressing to the competitors as they come back. At a lot of these events, we have a stage that I would say is the hard point of the event. A lot of the competitors look at the heavy bag stage and they say, everyone's time capping, everyone's doing this. That's the biggest work stage of the event. And, they read it kind of incorrectly, and we'll have a stage that is a trap. Utah, for example, something simple like the single arm farmer carry.
Yeah.
That stage appeared very simple, and as people got through it real time, they realized, oh, this requires way more work than, when we designed this stage, we looked at it and we were trying to decide spacing on it. I think all of us looked at it and said, this looks really short. And then when we proofed it, Nick got broke off.
I remember Nick going like, I think this is too short. And I was like, listen, you can do just as much damage with something short that you have to do a lot of as something long that you only do a few of.
Stage that was 10 foot apart drew blood on one of our arrows. So
to be fair, she fell over just walking.
Yeah.
There was not under load. She was just walking.
But a stage like that where it was a simple stage design and it required way more attention because it was a strong hand only, or strong and weak hand, depending on what arm you carried with. So the shooting was actually pretty difficult.
Yep.
You had the dexterity of reloading between and pacing that appropriately to make sure you were loaded on time.
Yep.
And then the aggravation of how are you gonna walk backwards with the implement so you stay in the same hand, or are you turning and jumping over the bar, walking around?
Yep.
Watched a lot of people kick themselves in the shins, and
Oh yeah.
that stage I think set a bigger gap in performance for the event than the heavy bag stage. Now, the heavy bag stage was more exciting to watch. So I like seeing those stages. And afterwards, as people come up to us and they say, hey, this stage, the targetry looked really easy. And I cruised through the shooting. How am I still down here in performance? Well, you shot really well, but you spent more time at the firing line, so you didn't complete like the bike stage. You didn't finish the 9th or 10th round of shooting. Yep. So all of those points that you accumulated were good, but a lot of people were getting through all 9 or 10 rounds or bonus work.
Yep. So if we think about that, if there's 100 rounds possible, 100 points possible for the shooting, 100 points possible for the work, and then any bonus points that you accumulate afterwards, on the Echo Bike, it would be very difficult to just do terribly on the shooting and then go out and make up for it on the bike, right? To speed through the shooting. Because essentially what you've earned is every time you earn a calorie or a bullet, you earn an opportunity at 2 points.
Yep.
If you sacrifice that point on the firing line, you've just cut your point that you earned in half, or points that you've earned in half. So it's, I earn a calorie, I get a bullet, I have earned the right to get another point. And taking advantage of that is incredibly important. Spending too much time at the firing line it's going to inhibit your ability to get back to earn more points. That's a game you have to play.
Yeah, and there was several athletes, that event in particular, or that stage in particular, we had people questioning, hey, dot torture. Mm-hmm. Everybody looks at those small squares and they say, I can't hit these. Well, then they watch 40 people shoot it in front of them, and they're all having a relatively high hit rate. And so then they say, okay, I do have an opportunity to hit this. So it kind of swayed people from saying, oh, I'm just going to rip through the bike, run up here, mag dump, and then come off the line. Well, you still have to get off the bike, load your mag,
yep,
and shoot the string. So even if you do that as fast as you can, you're not on the bike for the entire time. So
yeah,
you're only going to net a few more points on the work side, but then you just immediately toss all your points for the shooting.
Right.
So I'm actually really happy with how the timing worked out for the dot torture on that stage in particular. That's pretty much how we've envisioned it for a while of, hey, this target's hard enough that people have to slow down and respect the target, but it's reasonable enough that even the most inexperienced shooter can look at the target and say, I can hit this.
Yeah.
And they don't just toss their points by rushing through the shooting.
Yeah. The worst feedback that I saw was that the road leading up to the range was bad.
What if you had a tire blowout on the highway?
But you were on the way to the tactical game, so there are definitely things that we can control in a match. We can control safety, we can control timing, schedule, we can control the stages, how they're built, how they're designed. We can control a lot of things we can't control. The cuisine in the local area, the roads, as much as we'd like to be able to, because trust me, we drive on them every single day, and when we do it, it's usually with a trailer or a couple trailers, with a dually, with the single rear wheel.
20 minutes to get up that. The dually handles like a UPS truck. It's not pleasant to ride in. I'm trying to get a nap on the way to the range in the morning, and Cullen or Nick are driving, and the 40 minutes up to the gate, nice leisurely drive.
Yep.
The 25 minutes that it took us to drive the mile into the range complex was the worst road.
Worse. And we did it every single day from Monday till Sunday, or till Monday to Monday, 8 days. We did it 8 days in a row. So as bad as you felt for the 2 days that you had to do it, or maybe 3 if you checked in on Friday, 8 days was much worse. So trust us, we didn't like it either. It's not anything that we can control.
$19 a day for your rental insurance. It goes pretty far. We don't have that luxury. We have to go to Discount Tire ourselves or send Row 20 times the event.
Yeah, we've. I wonder how much. I'm going to add up how much money we've spent at Discount Tire. If you're looking for somebody to sponsor Discount Tire, reach out to us. We'll definitely pick you up. I think it'd be a good one. All right, so coming off Utah, looking at what we've got coming up next, heading to South Carolina. What are your thoughts about Sawmill? What are your thoughts about what we're going to see next weekend?
Well, I'm really excited for Sawmill for a couple reasons. One, we have on our internal side, we have staffing very similar to what we had in Utah. So we have the new format rolling out well. We have stages that are going to lend well before nationals to, hey, this is kind of what we're hammering home that everybody's working on. This is kind of the standard of what we're doing. I know the Sawmill crowd is a pretty active crowd. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing how, we know we have several competitors that are trying to qualify for nationals still. The people that are going to be gatekeeping are not going to take it easy on them. So no one's just going to cruise through South Carolina. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath for everybody. And we're not going to add to that any more than we have to. Right. I didn't break any glass to put in your firing lanes or anything this time. But that one I'm pretty excited about. For one, it's the last regional we have.
Yep.
So it gives us a little break to pull out all sorts of evil things for nationals. And I think everybody knows that they have that break for nationals, so they can send it pretty hard on this one.
Yeah.
This is their last opportunity to podium. I'm pretty excited about that. And we should have another really fun carbine stage.
I think so. I like Sawmill because of the long range opportunity it gives us. The base stages are a little bit shorter in that 50 to 120 I think yards, but they do have some good long range opportunity or mid range opportunity. So I'm excited to get out there and get some of that involved in this event.
Yeah, and I'm currently packing for our weekend trip to shoot action shooting, but also that same pile is tents, chairs, coolers, all the stuff that we're loading up for Tina to come out. So we got to build her little tent city. I was like, we're going to call it Cougarville 2.0. And she's like, no, we got to.
Raccoonville.
Yeah. We tried to order some shark fin banners for our tents, and they just didn't come in time. And then she's like, I don't care anymore about the banners. But she's going to throw up the bat signal. So watching, the competitors that are coming in, we know we have 12 ladies and women's 40 plus going for that event. So another stacked house, another dogfight with the ladies there. They get to all beat up on each other one more time before they beat up on each other at nationals.
Let's see. So I just wanted to pull the numbers up so we have them. For men's intermediate, we've got 58. For women's intermediate, we've got 16. Men's 50 plus, we've got 23. 40 plus, 22. Women's 40 plus, we've got 12. Men's tactical, we've got 69. Women's tactical, we've got 9. Men's elite, we've got 34. Women's elite, we've got 5, and 25 teams. So that's a big field.
34 and men's elite. I mean, for as many complaints as we've been getting about how heavy things are getting, you know, previously it was like 9, 10 guys in elite, and they'd beat up on each other. The division's growing kind of exponentially at this point.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I mean, we've had a ton of guys duking it out, trying to get their qualifying spots or redemption. You know, Josh Sykes, for example, wasn't happy with his previous performance, comes in, you know, shows up with his Batman-style rappel gloves and had all sorts of extra kit for this. So I expect to see that again in South Carolina. I guess we'll have to reveal some of the details Thursday.
Yeah. No, preliminary programming plan for South Carolina looks pretty good. I'm excited to get a couple new things tested before nationals. And when I say tested, I mean just like ideas about how we're going to run stages, timing formats, things like that. So
more administrative stuff for
administrative
us, right?
stuff. Yeah, correct. Not like new movements. There's I think we've got one new implement that we'll be using. We've been testing it around here, but we're going to be bringing it out for South Carolina. That we haven't put that into a tactical games event yet.
Well, for the OGs, we've definitely used this implement before, but not this specific version.
Good call. Yeah. I guess before, and this is with the Husafel stones, we always had issue changing weights in them because it required water. So anytime that you have to fill jerry cans, huck jerry cans over, fill the water in the Husafel stone, break them down for the next group that might be a different division, it was just always a huge pain in the ass. So we ended up using them at basically empty weight, which was 95 pounds for every division across the board.
Yep.
So it changed the stimulus that they were supposed to be creating. For men's elite, obviously 95 pounds in a stress carry isn't nearly as bad as 95 pounds for a women's intermediate competitor. So it's exciting now to have something that is scalable, that is fillable, that's changeable, that we can fill up 1 to 50 and 1 to 200 and have a wide range out there for the field.
And if it's more of a traditional strongman implement, getting closer to a strongman type weight makes sense.
Yeah.
410 pounds. You guys ready for it?
All right, looking forward now. So after we come back from South Carolina, we're on full-blown nationals prep mode. I think right now we're at like just under 200 competitors signed up for nationals. So if you guys didn't see the Facebook post and the plan and how things are going to go, we have all of our qualifying spots are going to be reserved until October 15th. So that gives everybody 2 paydays. Like basically, that was my biggest thing, was making sure that people that they had the ability to register if they needed to. So basically got 2 pay periods if you get paid on the 1st and the 15th to be able to put that stuff together. So if you qualified and you want to come and compete at nationals, those are going to be available until the 18th, not the 15th, I'm sorry. So October 18th, all the open slots that are left are going to be opened up to intermediate competitors. So the way that competition is going to go, Friday will just be the qualifying divisions. So you'll have everybody from men's elite down to the 50-plus division. All of those competitors will be competing through 4 stages on Friday. Saturday, Sunday, we'll go to our new format. So you'll have 7 stages set up across 7 different bays. Some of them will be bays, some of them won't be bays. You'll have 7 different stages set up, and then you'll alternate through those on the days. So for all the qualifying competitors, you're going to do 11 stages throughout the weekend of nationals. If you are in the intermediate division, you're going to do 7 on Saturday, Sunday. Like last year, another thing that we're going to bring back, because I thought it went really well, is going to be the final 12th stage for the top 5 men's elite and the top 5 women's elite. Last year, that was probably my favorite moment from nationals, was watching those competitors out there, having the crowd out there, doing it under the lights. I thought that was really cool, so I'm excited to bring that back.
Yeah, that was very nice. I mean, at every regional that I've competed in, you go to your stage. Then when you come off the stage, you whatever tent you're going to, you go refit your gear, go nap, eat sandwiches, bathroom breaks, whatever you're doing. And maybe you go look at the stage in front of you early kind of thing. But it's rare that you get to go follow a crowd or a specific group to watch those internal fights for the competition. So at Nationals, being able to see, hey, the top 5 men and women in each division duke it out on that final stage, that was pretty impressive. I mean, we got to watch, everybody real time got to watch, hey, this guy looks like a giant. This guy looks like your average
Hobbit.
Joe body profile.
Yeah.
And they're neck and neck on this stage. And then shooting wise, hey, we watched how much time they're at the firing line. Hey, that guy's shooting an Atlas and that guy's shooting a Glock. And then we see the scores come back and real time in front of 250 other spectator or competitors, they got to see, hey, this is actually happening on a stage. We've talked about it where, let's say the elite squad is usually the elite men, elite women, and then a couple of other division, like 1 or 2 heats of other divisions tagged on with them.
Yeah.
And they kind of stay together. So the men's tactical group or the, men's 40 plus might not see the stage that the elites are going on or vice versa.
Yeah.
So you could have a completely different presentation of how people are approaching the stage in real time. The action stages are one where if you have 3 or 4 squads of relatively new shooters go through, it looks differently than when your experienced action shooters come through and just blister through the stage. So now being able to put that real time in front of everybody's face is pretty good. It's also kind of that gladiator mentality of, we get to sit here and drink now and you'll dance for us, right? You want to be the pro? Okay.
So I think Friday night we'll end up probably going under the lights, which will be fun. Saturday night, probably the same thing. We'll have at least a couple squads that'll go underneath the lights. That's one of the cool things about that facility is the ability to be able to do that. So we've got 11 stages, as we discussed, 12 for the top 5 for men's elite and women's elite. One of the things that's been brought up a couple times is the swim. It's so funny how many people are freaking out about that. And it's like, well, I don't want to swim. Well, you don't have to swim. You can tread in the water. That's fine. It's going to be faster to swim. I think people are thinking really deeply into it, getting over concerned about it. Where if they just showed up and there was a pond in front of them that they had to cross in order to get to where they needed to go, they would just cross the fucking pond. They wouldn't even think about it.
Well, looking back at our previous events where the O course several years ago at RPR, we had the telephone pole that crossed the corner of that pond out there. And everyone going through was like, I don't want to fall in this thing. I don't want to fall in it. And then as soon as we get done with it, everybody's like, I should have jumped in. That would have been awesome. That would have looked cool. Or the one or 2 athletes that happened to fall in or get knocked off the log into it made the cooler photos anyway.
Yeah.
And as much as these athletes come out here and they're like, I don't want to get icky.
Yeah.
But that's exactly why they came here, was to get icky with their guns.
That's what the sport is.
They want the carbon on their face when they're shooting. Hey, make me look like I'm a big-time operator. Hey, you could just do these things that naturally put you in this environment. When I come off a stage and I've got carbon all over my hands from shooting a shotgun or a rifle, I didn't have to doctor that up. The mud that's on my plate carrier got there naturally.
It's funny because I remember I always used to wear pants, and then I started wearing shorts when I was competing, and I started cutting up my knees. And it's like, well, if I'm going to make the sacrifice wearing shorts, I'm going to cut up my knees. And I see guys wear knee pads and stuff like that, and that's cool. But for me, they just get in the way. They make my legs hot. Like that kind of takes away the entire purpose of wearing shorts. If you're going to wrap something around your calves or around your knees that are going to also make you hot. I think people often forget these events are out in on shooting ranges. It's just we go to GTI, we tell people, there is shit that will hurt you here. There is shit that will cut you. There is metal. This is a deactivated nuclear cooling facility. Every one of these ranges, there is some inherent risk of going out onto a shooting range. This is you're probably going to get a little cut up. You're going to get a little bruised up. You're going to get a little banged up. But that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and people have to realize that when we present an idea of a stage that we're going to do, we have several things, parameters for that stage, timing for the event, where the venue is, kind of thing. But overwhelmingly, the thing that we look at more than anything else is the safety of the competitors. Yeah. And there's implied risk, normal, like, do you want us to protect you from skin cancer while you're out on the range?
Right.
Yes, we tell you, but we can't make the event indoors. Well, we could, but it'd be boring.
Lame.
Yeah. I think it'd be kind of cool to actually be in AC. But with those things of the normal danger that you're in, we're not going to throw axes at you while you're doing it.
Yeah. We're not going to add anything that is going to make it more, like, we're not going to try to create an environment that is unsafe. Our goal is to create as safe of an environment as humanly possible, understanding the work and the things that you're doing.
Absolutely. So the swim one for nationals, I know a lot of people stressing about it. People are taking swim lessons, and Josh is out there with his floaties at a shooting event, which is pretty hilarious.
Jim Blackwell has messaged me maybe like 6 times, super worried about it. I was like, you could just stand up.
Yeah. It's I don't think people like it. The best thing that it's done is created chaos in people not knowing what they're doing and thrown them off from training for the things that they should be training for, which are the other 10 or 11 stages.
Well, it's actually kind of a nice refresher for a lot of athletes. Personally, first event you go to, you're unsure of who the other competitors are, what the actual rules are. There's a lot that people just don't know. Second, third event, you start figuring out the flavor of what we're going to do. So now now the squad matrix isn't such a scary thing. Now,
right.
Like now when I tell you your athlete number, you hopefully retain that information. Well, I can't possibly need this. But now that we've changed or thrown a new fear for people in, it brings back that fresh spirit of like, okay, there's something that I need to be alert for. I need to pay attention to this. I need to train for this. And I think in a lot of cases, most of the people that spend their time training for one thing or another, when they get to the actual event, like when we stepped the weights up last year in Georgia for Inman, went to the heavier bag, a lot of our competitors looked at it and said, I've never done a 250. And then real time on the line, they picked it up and they're like, okay, it was bad, but it was still doable.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I was not properly pacing myself through this, so now I need to be more deliberate with each form rep that I'm doing. And I think the swim is kind of doing that same thing for a lot of competitors of saying, just when you were comfortable and, your competition's getting better, or, doing these runs, like we went from doing 5-mile runs to a 400-meter sprint, and everybody's like, wait, I've been training and pacing for this. Well, that's the tactical games that we've been talking about. Like, do you just want to run on a circuit course? You just want to go run laps?
The thing that people love the most about our sport, I think, that we hear is that it changes constantly, right? Like there are some things, again, that we carry over from event to event that we do that are consistent. But the idea is you should be able to go to every one of these events during a year and have a different experience. That like there's going to be a bunch of unique things about it. And I really like where you went with that with the swim is like we haven't done it before.
Yep.
Now every one of our competitors is going to be experiencing this for the first time. And it'll be on Friday, just for everybody. It's going to be on Friday. It'll only be for the qualifying divisions. If you're competing in the intermediate division, you won't be swimming. So we got an email, somebody asking us if they could wear a wetsuit. I don't care. If you want to wear a wetsuit, you can absolutely wear a wetsuit. It's not warranted. We'll check the water temperature. I'm pretty sure the water temperature is going to be fine enough where you're not going to require a wetsuit.
Where are we going to make vet the stage?
Nick and I will vet it. Oh. Yeah. And Gill.
I mean, I was a safety swimmer.
There you go. Do you just swim in a circle?
I knew it was coming up. I kind of float on my back like a sea otter.
It's one of those things that's really funny. One of the things that we got that was feedback from nationals last year that we're going to be implementing, there was a lot of, and I'll call it complaints and probably valid complaints that there wasn't enough heavy stuff at nationals. So we're going to be bringing back a stage from 2021 nationals. There was one stage in particular that I really liked from that event. So we're going to be bringing back one of the stages from that. So if you're looking for information, go back and see if you still have your stage documents from 2021 Nationals at Reveille Peak Ranch, and we're going to be bringing back a stage from that one.
That should be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm excited. So programming for nationals is pretty close to done. We've got some things that we need to build. We'll start building out there. Again, we've got like 6 weeks for setup, 5 weeks for setup. We'll get that moving forward pretty soon. And then I'm excited about this year's national championship. We're at 30 plus vendors right now. I think we'll end up somewhere around 50. Trying to get as many people out there as possible. We want it to be the show that you guys want it to be. We want to showcase your guys' hard work and the things that you've done to get to this point. We want as many spectators to come out as possible and see you guys performing, see the work that you guys have put in, and see what the tactical games is. Yeah. Because the best thing that we can do is continue to grow and get more eyes on us. That's how we continue getting more support for the Second Amendment, continuing encouraging health and wellness in our country. And that's really, outside of putting on an event, that's the goal of the tactical games, in my opinion, is to encourage more people to get fit, to have a reason to get fit, to have something to do, and to give them a reason to go out and shoot and be effective and safe with their firearms.
Absolutely. I mean, if it wasn't for TAC games, I know personally I wouldn't be in the gym nearly as much as I have been in recent years. Shooting, a lot of people, like, action shooting is completely different than bullseye shooting. You might be good at one and not good at the other. It's nice to get tested in things that you're not good at.
Yeah. I always and just to get tested, for anything. No, but you're right. If you went and you were really good at something forever, I appreciate competitors that come out and know that they're not going to be great at it, that they're not going to win at it, especially the ones that have been at the peak of something else, and they come out and they try something new. Shane.
Yeah, our
Shane
crossover
Coley,
athletes are huge.
He's a world champion pistol shooter. Came out and competed in the tactical games and won the intermediate division, but next event went in the Glock event that we just had in Utah, competing in tactical and found real challenge. He had competitors that were going against him that were good. And the same thing with the games athletes and the professional obstacle course racers and any of the tier 1 guys that we have come out. It's definitely, if you were always good at something, you're never going to be challenged. You're not going to have fun. You're going to get complacent. So challenging yourself constantly, I think, is a good behavior to have.
Sometimes it's nice to be the king, but if you're the king for too long, it gets a little boring, right?
You end up dying on the toilet.
Yeah, well, several kings, actually. But yeah, and that's the thing, too, is having people step up into the other divisions, like Clint Gower. You definitely badgered him into coming over.
Everybody said badgered. I said one thing. I was like, hey, come compete in Elite this weekend. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
I'm not going to say you had a gun to his head or anything, but it was close. It was pointing in his direction anyway. But yeah, I'm doing the same thing with friends of mine, John Murray.
Yeah.
I'm like, John, come play in Elite.
I think we've said his name on the podcast more than anybody else's. I think John Murray might be the most mentioned person on this podcast.
If you guys don't know about John Murray, he shot on the Pro Series, the 3 Gun Nation Pro Series to me years ago. He's not a new shooter. He's a very skilled shooter.
He's 58 years old. He's been shooting for 58 years.
And he run with the
he's
rim 50. To rim in the canyon for fun.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to do it.
He tried convincing me to do that with him. He's like, no, you got to come out. It's just 72 hours of running straight. I'm like,
and we just have a Ziploc bag full of peanut butter. That's all we survive on.
I don't want to do that for any reason.
Yeah, so to have the people in each division, there are definitely a few competitors that I like getting in their ear and letting them know that you're in the wrong division.
Yeah.
Like, please come play with us. You're going to do huge things for the sport. I know personally, like, I've played in tactical. I've asked you about going to Elite. Like, I'm still trying to decide where I'm going for next year. But going through and, like, do I want to compete and just float through and not get challenged? You talked about Shane going through, and I don't think during the event he necessarily felt like he was winning.
Sure.
When we talked to him in North Carolina, there's a few times where I walk by and I see him, and he doesn't look happy, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a pretty standard thing for a lot of people. And then as results start shaking out, then they can kind of see where they're at. Okay, but as they're looking to their left and their right, every competitor says immediately when they get to an event, oh, this tiny female next to me, I got her. And then she just zooms off in front of you. You're like, whoa, this is a little eye-opening. So people start definitely figuring out like who their competitor, like what their competitor goal is.
Yep.
And I like that the divisions are shaking out where some people are saying, hey, maybe I want to step down. Like, nothing wrong if you're the ones, like I went from tactical back down to intermediate. If you happen to do that, no problem. There's no issue with that because it's going to make that other division that much more competitive.
Sure. And there's like, and we've talked about this a lot. There are certain occupations, there's certain schedules, there's certain things that like, if you don't have the time to be able to train to be in the elite division, there's no shame in competing in the tactical division. If your ultimate goal is to compete in the elite division, understand it's going to take some sacrifice to be competitive in that division. And I'm not going to say it's going to take sacrifice in order to compete there, but if you want to be competitive, like I've been watching Tim Szymanski. That dude is out in his driveway working every single night.
Just put like a 20-meter rope in his backyard,
Yeah.
hanging in a tree
Yeah.
or something. I don't know. It's crazy.
But that's like guys like Rodman, Zach. Like you can't have excuses. You have to find the time. You have to make the time. You have to do the things that other people aren't going to do if you want to be serious about being competitive.
This is one that I get quite often. You know, as a lot of you guys know, I'm a sponsored shooter. I have tons of resources in the shooting community because this is what I do full time. And I've had multiple people say, "Oh, I wish I had the ammo that you had." Like, okay, if I gave you the ammo today, would you make the time to go to the range?
Yeah.
Because we're already telling you what the program is, and you're not willing to do it already. And maybe you are, but people don't know my 24-hour daily schedule. At one of the previous events we went to, overwhelming complaint was that these professional shooters came in and swept the podium, or these professional athletes came in and did well in an athletic competition.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you chose your path previously, and that's why you're in the situation you're in. And so one of the guys on a Reddit forum, I was like, pick a month, and I'll send you one month of my Excel budget. And you can see what I spend in travel and expenses, what my training schedule looks like. It's changed, obviously, now. I'm not training as much. But as you go through and look at that, like, hey, what are you willing to do for the sport? I know some people, we've had some competitors that hit 14 matches a year.
Yeah.
Or all the regionals, and then they're still trying to get to nationals, right? Like, they want to go to every event they can, and maybe they don't ever hit the podium ever. Well, then you'll have somebody that comes in, goes to one event, on a whim they decide to come into the sport, they get a slot, they go, and then they're upset that the people to the left and right of them, like, oh, you're doing this next week, and you're going to, so you have to be able to balance what your own sacrifice is for the sport. Now, I understand, like, I can't do butterfly pull-ups, I can't do handstand walks, so when I go to CrossFit, I'm not upset that I'm getting beat by a gymnast in that event. Like, I could practice those things. Well, in our sport...
Can you please?
Well, practice...
I just want to watch it.
Well, I did post my videos from the Open this year. Probably going to do it again 2025. That's next year.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch these. But going through and looking at those things and saying, is this effort what you're putting in, is it worth what you're getting out of it?
Sure.
Because we have Utah, you guys mentioned already, 4 professional CrossFitters.
Yep.
None of them were on the podium.
Not a single one. No.
So, and we had a lot of professional shooters. One of them was on the podium.
Well, who? John?
John.
Yeah. Yep, that's true.
And if you ask him how much he's been shooting lately, he'll probably tell you, I haven't touched a gun since this time last year. Or something.
Yeah. Ever since the last time he competed. And when you've built a foundation like he has, the practice is, and Jared talked about this for a long time. The practice was a couple weeks leading up to the event. You're not out there. You don't need to spend that. You don't need to shoot 50,000 rounds that year to get to that level. You've achieved that already. So now it's 5,000 rounds or whatever it might be. It's significantly less in order to maintain proficiency instead of trying to build it.
And if you guys notice, we have several online training programs. We have different curriculums. We're trying to give you all of that cheat code.
Yeah.
Right. And, so like if you go to an event, let's say nationals, and there's no numbers on your target, just think that's part of the challenge. right? If we tell you what the stage brief is ahead of time, like you still got to run the 5 miles. So
Awesome. You got anything else you want to talk about today?
no, my friend died over here, but that's it.
Well, you might want to pull him in because I don't think they can see him.
He's losing his.
Oh no!
Oh, his leg fell off again.
Oh god, no!
Oh, we're breaking stuff.
Thank you guys very much. We'll see you next month.